Cullen goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, hello there, hello there. My gosh, halfway through May 15th. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Tuesday, overcast, but looks to me like the sun's fighting to get out. And, my sister Susan joins us from St. Louis. Hi, Suze.
Hi.
How you doing?
It's a gorgeous day here.
Well, that's
Yet
good.
another.
Okay, yeah, I know. Oh.
But only slightly bad news.
What?
Well, Limbaugh's...
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about. That's exactly, see, our minds just think alike. Susan happens to live in a state. That would be Missouri?
Misery is right.
Right. And we had talked about this before, about it happening. It has happened. So what is it? There's some kind of a hall of honor where statues of famous Missourians are in the state capitol? Is that what this is?
Yeah, you know, like Mark Twain and Truman, people like that.
And now, Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. Isn't that appalling? So I assume there's been a hue and a cry about it.
Well, yes, they actually had to have armed guards there to keep the, quote, uninvited activist demonstrators away.
Oh, God.
There's nothing we can do. The majority of both houses in our state house are just these total...
whacked out Republicans.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the Republicans who've gone over the... I don't know, over the line.
I mean, I really
They're
feel like
lost to
I'm,
us.
Living in, a cult.
Yeah, well, you're living in a state right now that's governed by a cult. And we're close enough because we've got a Republican-controlled legislature. Although we've got a plan here, and it seems to be working well, Suze, and you're aware of it, that we're just jailing most of our legislators.
Yes, well, I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, just today. I mean, here, you read the newspaper. Here's today. Former Democratic State Representative Bill DeWeese has reported to the Dauphin County Correctional Facility to begin his 2.5 to 5 year prison term for 5 felony counts, theft, conspiracy, blah, 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 blah. And right under that is a judge has continued the sentencing date for State Senator Jane Orey to give her additional time, I guess, to get her makeup in order. She was convicted on 14 to 24 counts forgery, tampering with evidence, theft of services, yada, yada, yada. She's a Republican. So it's cross the aisle crookery going on, and it's a constant. I remember when the sports pages started turning into a police blotter. You know, it used to be you go and you read about sports, and all of a sudden you're reading about doping and assaults and, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And half the sports report became, you know, what we think of as police blotter stuff. And increasingly, our state government is the same way. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know.
It's
dispiriting, to say the least.
Yes, dispiriting. Indeed. Yeah, I saw that. It made the New York Times. Honors for Limbaugh.
Well, and talking about slime balls, the other thing that I totally don't get, and maybe if someone else gets it, they could write or call and clear this up for me. I can't for the life of me figure out what they think John Edwards did. The one question that I had all along was, well, if it's a gift, who paid the gift tax?
Right.
Because Bunny Mellon's supposed to pay the gift tax.
Right.
Well, she did.
So what's the crime?
It was given as a gift. It was on its face a gift. The tax was paid. No one has anything to say about how he didn't report it as a campaign contribution because
it was
a gift. And he can use it for whatever his slimy and nefarious needs are.
Well, why did
So why are we being dragged through this?
Is this a federal? Is this a federal case or is it a state?
This is a federal case. Election law fraud.
Why would they go after him if it's so clear?
I don't know. What am I missing? That's my question.
Well, I have seen,
because the first witness said, "I'm not missing anything," and the judge won't let them testify because he says it's drawing a legal conclusion. But it's the advice. It's the advice they sought. You know, this was the advice they were given.
Well, I've seen a lot of pundits and legal analysts writing saying what you're saying. I don't see a crime here. I mean, it's not a crime to be.
If there's a crime, it's a crime between him and Bunny Mellon for seducing her out of her money.
Right, but it's not.
And that's just sort of a torty thing, you know. That's personal.
It's not a crime to be
a slime
ball, and that's, I think, what he's really on trial for.
Yes.
But so if he walks, I mean, his life is ruined. He's a slime ball. No one wants to be near him. Nobody wants to see him. I mean, he's been shunned by every group that he would ever want to have been a part of. Enough already, right? So,
right.
But the jury, you know, you don't know. You hope the jury is up to the task here.
Well, you see, I think the jury might be so confused because it's on its face so obvious that they screw up.
A lot of people would say they don't care because he's such a slime ball, so
that they figure he should be in jail for something. No, I don't think juries actually operate that way. I think for the most part, they're real serious.
I think so too.
No, so I know. I mean, really, it was when the New York Times did the article on Bunny Mellon, and they said right in the article, she paid the taxes. You know, timely, not after this whole thing, not when it came up. She paid the taxes.
So the feds say this was misuse of campaign funds, and his defense is proving that it wasn't campaign funds. It was a gift from a rich old lady.
And there's proof that it was gift because the taxes were paid, and they were paid prior to any of this coming up.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you have it. It sounds like a slam dunk acquittal.
It's such a slam dunk that I figure I must be missing something. You know, because I can't claim that I'm, you know, any specialist in campaign election law.
Right.
I'm just doing what you say I always do.
Which is what?
BS.
No. Well,
but BS with, you know, I'm thinking. It's, you know, what you call BS is me thinking.
Yeah. Well, it sounds, I'm buying your BS this time around.
Okay.
I mean, because sometimes your BS is right. Indeed.
frequently.
Right. See, I knew she wouldn't like. I knew you wouldn't like sometimes. Is that what I said? Sometimes. All right.
Well, listen. If you want the champion of all BSers, I offer up my husband, who last night sat on a panel with the director of Cosi fan tutte and the conductor, the director, the set designer, and the head of opera theater, and opined about the science of love. And
what the hell was that all about?
Well, exactly.
What is that for?
He was great.
For opera patrons?
Uh-huh. They loved him. He had them rolling in the aisles.
So he brought a psychoanalytical point of view to this particular opera. Yeah? Of this.
Theoretically.
Oh, but you knew, one BSer to another, you knew he was in full BS mode.
Right.
Well,
he did. He was
very
really good.
Oh yeah, BSers.
And all the opera, all the singers, that came up and thanked him and said that they would use that in their.
He gave them. Yeah, he gave. Well, that's good. Nothing more entertaining than a BSer in full, in full
And I, his
mode.
good wife, did nothing other than look proud and adoring.
Isn't that nice? That's very good. I'm very proud of him. All right. Well, Susan, I was talking yesterday about the fact that everything is for sale, and I read about how some New York Life insurance. What was that? New York Life has a deal with 10 Major League Baseball teams that anytime somebody slides into home and the umpire says safe, the announcer has to say the following. Let me see if I get it right. Safe at home. Wait. Safe at home. Safe and secure. New York Life. 10 teams now force their play-by-play people to do that. Safe at home. Safe and secure. New York Life. Is that not the most puke-producing crap you've ever heard?
Yeah, I would. To me, all it's going to do is induce people to refuse
to get New York Life.
Right.
Because it doesn't belong there. What is that doing?
It's intrusive.
I know.
And it's not intrusive cleverly. It's just
disgusting.
In your face.
It looks like what it is. There's no way the play-by-play guy would say that unless he had to, unless there's a gun to his head, because there's money involved and they bought home plate. Okay, so I'm watching the Pirate game last night. They've been some really good games lately. They don't have bats, but so they're always squeakers. It's always 1-1, 2-2, 3. Never 3.
Right.
Rarely 3.
1-1.
Yeah, they're really. So I was watching, and they did. They won. They won last night. It's 3 in a row, which I think for them is
cool,
unheard of almost.
That makes it fun.
But listen to what I heard,
let me guess.
No, I didn't hear the New York Life one. Listen to what I heard. I had to run and write it down. And I don't have the full sentence. But something like, well, yes, that really was in the UPMC Medical Center Strike Zone.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean...
Just wait until someone slides into first on his, Carnegie Mellon knee pad.
Yeah. Well, geez. So I pity these play-by-play guys. So they cannot, if they're going to use the word, say strike zone, they can't just say, I don't think I was in the strike zone.
Well, they're just going to avoid saying
a strike zone.
That was right in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think they might be...
Not only that, but it ruins... There's music in what these guys do.
Yes, of course there is.
And the good ones provide a rhythm and a music to the game that's part of the pleasure.
Exactly.
And for them to insert themselves in it totally, it's like the wrong chord.
Oh, I hate it. Well, so there was this article with this guy decrying this kind of thing and saying, when you live in a culture now, which is not just we don't just have a market economy. Now we have a market society where literally everything is for sale, and this is telling you everything's for sale. And of course, the only people with the bucks to buy it are moneyed interests. So you set up a situation where nothing is really doesn't feel like it's owned by the community. Those are that's the Pittsburgh Pirates there. That the strike zone shouldn't belong to UPMC Medical friggin' Center. And New York Life shouldn't own Home Plate. What? It's sickening. It's just sickening.
Well, I'll tell you what else is sickening. I opened my front page today to see this headline. Rams' vision for Dome could cost $700 million.
Oh, that'd be money well spent, Suze.
And this is with, and here's the thing. The contract, when the Rams first came here, said that after X number of years, the stadium had to be brought up to within the, top 4 or 5 stadiums in the country, or the Rams could leave.
Tell them to go. They're a crap team anyway.
In this day and age, with the state of the city and the state of the state,
yeah,
for them to even, doesn't it appear to you to be grossly out of touch with what the public reaction is sort of uniformly?
You haven't noticed that these people don't give a damn what the public, what the hoi polloi, what the great unwashed. First of all, let me ask you this. What the hell do you need a dome for in St. Louis for the football season?
I don't know. This one is going to have a retractable roof precisely because it's so nice.
Well, so what do you need a dome for? It's not freezing.
Well, it's already in a dome. Now they want to...
a retractable dome. Now they already have a dome. Oh, dear God.
It's really,
So they can't like feed the poor. The government can never find the money to feed the poor. They cut these programs, transportation, all this kind of stuff.
Who's the majority owner in the Rams now?
No. Who?
Stan Kroenke, who is Walmart.
God, this whole culture's so goddamn corrupt.
And they didn't even want to release this to the public. We had to go to court to see what they were demanding. Really, the Rams are really a treat. Let them go.
Yeah, they stink.
Who cares?
St. Louis has never been a football town anyway.
We have our baseball.
You got hockey. You got hockey and baseball. Let them go. You don't even care. No. There, we solved that. Good.
Yeah. I think that's going to be. I don't think I'm alone.
No. Here's my prediction, Susan. The Rams will get what they want. That's my prediction.
Oh, because we can't be a major time city without a football team.
No.
Look around us. We've got a football team. We aren't a major time city.
Well,
that is not the determining factor.
The thing is first of all, I still don't, in my head, say St. Louis Rams.
No.
The Rams, to me, don't belong in St. Louis. It just doesn't even, it doesn't even
it's
work.
Like the Indianapolis Colts.
I know. Well, all of it.
You can't even say it.
I'm not even comfortable with the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. And I think they've been there for like 40 years or 50 years. And can you imagine how the people feel in Brooklyn about the Dodgers? Jeez, but no, St. Louis Rams, give me a break. Arizona Cardinals, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't want them back either.
No,
that was the last football team we literally showed the door.
Well, I don't know.
Oh well.
Okay, so. Did you see the list of the best baby names?
Yeah, did you notice what a trendsetter I am?
No.
Well, I named my son Jacob.
Yeah, but you don't
31 years ago.
Big deal. You don't call him Jacob.
No.
And,
But that wasn't my choice. I thought it would be a cute name.
I love the name Jacob. Jake. Anyway, so here are the top names. Because yesterday I was saying something. I was looking around for one of the names. I couldn't come up with what kids are being named now. And I think I said Megan, and I thought, Megan, that's probably old already. It is. It's not on the list. Top 10 girl names. Here we go. Sophia. You think that's how it's pronounced? Sophia? Or Sophia?
Yeah.
Sophia. Isabella. Emma. Olivia. Ava. Emily. Madison, hanging in there. Mia. And Chloe. I don't have a problem with any of those, do you?
No.
My son noted the other day, we were talking about Robin Williams, and he was saying how he thought he was pretty funny, but then he had a real negative about him. He said, do you know he named his daughter Zelda? It's like, is that child abuse? Zelda. It's close. All right, here are the boys' names. I wish they'd just go back to the basics. Michael, Sam, George, John. I like those. Here are the boys' names. Jacob. Coming in at number 2, Mason. Where'd that come from?
The Kardashians.
Oh, my God! Jess just said it came from the Kardashians.
She named her son.
She named her son Mason? Oh, dear God, help us. Number 3, William, hanging in there. That's a good old one. 4, Jaden. I suppose that comes from Will Smith's kid. Who ever heard of that name before?
I don't know.
Noah, back to the Bible. Michael, back to the Bible. Ethan. Alexander. Aiden. I don't like that for a boy. Daniel.
Aiden's because there was a soap opera guy named Aiden.
And he was a Sex and the City character.
And he was a Sex and the City character. Aiden. But I have to tell you, that sounds very feminine to me, I think. What do I
No, it invokes a masculine guy with an accent.
Oh, yes, it invokes an Irish Spring ad. It invokes, like a white cable knit fisherman sweater. And, yes, on the moors. I don't know. Anyway, so those are the baby names. Okay. I'm going to take a break, I think.
Okay.
Is that okay?
See ya.
Okay, see ya.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Opera, City Theater, Symphony, History Museum, and Carnegie Museums. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. Check out this week's big deal. Over 40% off authentic laser lipo treatments from FDA-approved Zerona. Bergbargains.com.
Gustavo and Vela wants to thank all of southwestern Pennsylvania, the USA, and the world for helping to liberate his native country of Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea has suffered 43 years of dictatorship, 43 years of human rights abuses, 43 years of corruption, and 43 years of kleptocracy. Even with $5 billion in oil revenue in 2011, the 700,000 citizens of Equatorial Guinea earn less than $2 per day. A proud Mount Lebanon resident, please help Gustavo and Vela usher in the 21st century by allowing freedom, democracy, and socioeconomic prosperity by the rule of law for the next 43 years and beyond. Email him at presidentandvela@yahoo.com to help free Equatorial Guinea.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, Susan, before we get into the heavy stuff, who's going to get voted off Dancing with the Stars tonight?
Well, here's the thing.
I think, yeah.
I had to go listen to my husband, which I told him was really one of the...
So you don't know.
Well, I watched... Here's the second thing. So that 2-hour show...
It was a 2-hour show?
Yeah.
Hey.
I think.
Okay, I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
Oh, so you don't know. There was less than 25 minutes of dancing in it.
Well, sure. So who wants to watch that? What was the rest of it? Nonsense.
Talking and sob stories about what a tough life they'd all had.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only know that because the only one I watched was Donald's, of course.
How'd he do?
He got 2 10s and a 9.
Okay.
For his salsa, I think, and he got 2 9s and a 10 for his waltz. They liked him, but Menunos got like the 60, and the Cuban guy got 59, and
so they got
and the blonde lady got a back twinge, and but they all did really, really well.
They're all really good, so it's awful. Somebody's
up
good.
To people, and I couldn't vote for Mom, so I hope she doesn't find out that I didn't vote for Donald on her behalf.
You mean you were voting? She doesn't know how to cast a vote?
She doesn't know. Well, she doesn't know how to. It's too hard to call because you have to keep redialing because it's always busy. And so I showed her how to text vote.
Well, maybe she was doing it.
I don't think so.
You got to figure all over the Cheesehead Nation, they're voting like crazy.
You've got 6 votes for every device you've got in your house. So your cell phone, your computer, you can log on to the ABC. You can do it on your cell phone by texting, and you can call.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's little doubt that Steeler Nation helped put Hines Ward, in the... when
I was in Green Bay, Mom and I got in 18 votes in about 5 seconds because I was doing all the devices.
Well, that's good. Way to go.
But I didn't do it this week, so they're going to be 18 votes down, I'm just telling you.
Uh-oh. Well, if he's off, if he gets voted off, it's your fault.
It's going to be my fault.
That's right. Dang. Well, you going to watch tonight then?
Sure. I just sort of tune in at the very end.
Right. All right.
But the dancing was good.
Yeah, it is. They're incredible. They're really good. Yeah. And I thought I was going to watch Howard Stern's debut on primetime programming because now he's a judge on America's Got Talent. And I looked at it for a second. It was on opposite dancing, and I ended up not watching either.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a reaction to Howard Stern. And, I mean, even before I hear his voice, I just look at him.
He looks a little better than he used to. He's a little cleaned up.
His hair's a little shorter.
Yeah, he's cleaned up.
He's a little more groomed.
Yeah.
But he still looks like a ridiculous...
Susan doesn't like him. Jess loves Howard Stern.
I used to run into him in NYU all the time.
Really?
Well, his daughter was in
hard to think of him being
my daughter.
Hard to think of him being a father.
Mm-hmm.
But his wife now is from here. His pretty blonde wife.
Mm-hmm.
It came from Pittsburgh. Okay, let's get serious. Enough of this frivolity. 1/3 of American adults are obese. That's not counting overweight. That's obese. 1/3 are obese. By the year 2030, which sounds like a long time from now, but it isn't. That's just a little over 15 years from now. They expect close to half of the adult population of this country to be obese. Isn't that awful?
Pretty awful.
Well, I mean, it means there's going to be, just you got to figure almost every one of those people is going to have diabetes.
Well, but
they're going to have heart
what's
disease.
The problem is the insidious nature of how we got there. And it's not going to be easy to convince people to go backwards because we have trained our eyes and our brains to think that an appropriate portion is approximately 3 to 4 times
what it is
smaller.
I have to tell you, and I'm a case in point. When I find out what the proper portion is for like a steak or your potato, this looks like a joke to me.
Well, but let me tell you why it looks like that.
I know why.
The size of the dinner plate that you're eating off of is 35%
bigger,
or 40% almost bigger.
I know.
Than the plate you grew up with.
Right. If you look at your grandmother's plates.
I look at my wedding china.
Yeah, and everything's smaller, and even your wedding china was probably already growing at that point.
The bowl of my wedding china is the same size as the luncheon plate or the dessert plate of my current regular dishes.
Well, another reason, there's many reasons, but another reason is that Americans used to eat at home. Going out was a very special thing to do. And now the average American eats out like 3-4 times a week or something.
Yeah, you got to be in control of your own food. But if you start at the place where you've made all your flatware is bigger, your plates are bigger, of course it's going to look like you're supposed to be eating more food. So the first thing to do is to go back to the appropriate size dish and use your salad fork and as your dinner fork. That's also the same size as the dinner fork used to be 25 years ago.
Well, what difference does the size of a fork make?
Because it's scale. It's how your brain informs you that you're eating the right amount. And you've got to rescale it. And it's, of course, going to look like not enough food if it's sitting on a plate that's, if you're eating off a serving platter. That's what you're doing.
What's wrong with eating off a serving platter? I do that regularly. I made some hamburgers last night. You should have seen them. Man, they were some big hamburgers. I can't help it, Suze. I've been irretrievably screwed up by America's culture of consumption.
It takes a long time to retrain your brain and your eye. That's half the battle.
Yeah. Well, okay, but...
I know, you don't want to talk about it. Never mind. What?
Yeah, don't get on your high horse. Okay, but the reason I brought it up is to actually get to a piece I read, and you might have read this a few Sundays back. I just haven't had a chance to talk about it. There's a woman named Alice Randall. She's a writer in residence, it says, at Vanderbilt University. And she writes about black women because 4 out of 5 black women in America are seriously overweight. 4 out of 5. 1 out of 4 middle-aged black women has diabetes. So this stuff in the black community is huge. Ha 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 ha! That was a pun. Did you get that? Huge. Susan.
Yes, huge.
Well, listen. Didn't you get my pun? Susan?
Yes, I got.
Are you brain dead or are you doing something? Are you playing bridge on your computer?
I'm carefully letting it go.
Oh. It's like talking to Mother when you know she's playing bridge while you're talking to her. Hello?
I'm not playing
there's
bridge.
no
I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, you aren't giving me support, as they say.
I thought it was an inappropriate punning opportunity.
It was absolutely unintended, actually. I heard it and realized in the wake of it that I had said it. Anyway, here she brings up this...
It is, and again, what's not helping them is that they've adjusted their standard of beauty.
No, they didn't adjust it. They always had it. Here's what she says. So many of the experts on obesity do not understand something crucial about black women and fat. Many black women are fat because we want to be, she says.
Right.
And she says, just look at, there's a poet, black poet, Lucille Clifton, who wrote a whole poem called Homage to My Hips. And it begins with, these hips are big hips. And there's no like, oh, how awful, oy, yeah. And this Alice Randall goes on to say, okay, let's take a little quiz here. How many white girls in the 60s, Susan, you and I were definitely there, grew up praying for fat thighs? Can you think?
Not me.
Not me. You can't find one. And Alice Randall says, I did. Can you imagine? Here's a black girl in the 60s growing up and wanting fat thighs. She says, how many middle-aged white women fear their husbands will find them less attractive if their weight drops to less than 200 pounds? I have yet to meet a one. But I know many black women, she writes, whose sane, handsome, successful husbands worry when their women start losing weight. My lawyer husband is one. This is a total different culture. And then she says this, another friend, a woman of color, who is a tenured professor. So she clearly wants to keep saying it's not just, certain. We're talking about highly educated,
right? It's a
successful
standard of beauty in the community.
That's right. So, who's a tenured professor, told me that her husband, also a tenured professor and of color, begged her not to lose, quote, the sugar down below when she embarked on a weight loss program. He wanted a big ass. He wanted her hips big. He wanted her thighs big. That's what he wanted.
Here's the thing, though. For centuries in China, they wanted women to bind their feet because it was more beautiful.
Right.
But eventually women saw that as something that was harmful to them and freed themselves from that. And I'm not saying that black women need to be thin. I am saying that they need to not be so heavy that they put themselves in danger of having diabetes, etc. It's not worth dying for.
No, and she agrees, and she ends up saying, my goal is to be the last fat black woman in my family. She's going to try, but she is up against a culture that is definitely going in the other direction. And she says there's another book that she recommends. If you talk about the politics of it, she says in some ways being fat is a political statement. It ended up being a political statement on the part of black women. It also strikes me that it might have something to do, again, with there was no such thing as, a fat black field slave, right? You couldn't be. You worked every calorie off. And maybe, just like it used to be a sign of wealth to be fat, maybe now, I mean, unconsciously, and that
right.
It started, that it was a sign of being free.
Prosperity.
And prosperity to
and
have meat, and health, to have meat on your bones. I don't know. But she says this politically. So there's a book called The Embodiment of Disobedience, and it's about fat black women. And this woman argues that a fat black woman's body functions as a site of resistance to both racialized oppression and gendered oppression. And the fatness of black women has often functioned as both explicit political statement and active political resistance. Well, you can say that, but I mean, all those fat women who I ride the bus with, they're not thinking that their body is a political statement, I don't think.
No.
But they're reveling in their bodies. And I have looked, and I've said this, I look at some of the women on the bus who are huge, and they are done up so beautifully. Their makeup, their hair, their nails, their clothes, their accessories, that even though they're obese, they get up off that bus and you can tell they think they look hot. And you know what? They do. They do.
Well, but I mean, Beyonce's hardly thin. That's just a beautiful, totally curvy,
she's
well-proportioned, but hardly thin.
No, she's got hips. But
okay, but that's healthy. That's what healthy looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I
hardly
am saying
sacrificing, and I find it very hard to believe these men wouldn't want Beyonce in their beds.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. So I just find it interesting that, and here's another aside she made, which also sort of politicizes this a bit, and hard to disagree with her. She says when the biologist Daniel Lieberman, in a public lecture at Harvard recently, said that exercise for everyone should be mandated by law, the audience applauded. And she says this to that: a room full of thin, affluent people applauding the idea of forcing fatties, many of whom are dark, poor, and exhausted, to exercise appalls me. And I have to admit that I found the idea of mandated exercise horrific. I mean, what are we going to get into? I mean, that's what they do that's what they did in communist China and Soviet Union.
But
all right, everybody.
There is a place to mandate exercise, and that's in the schools.
In the schools.
They've carefully taken it out.
Right, because they don't have money.
Because they can't afford it. But if
supposedly.
You teach people in ways, if you engage young kids in exercise programs, they'll enjoy it and they'll grow up and do it. But if you don't think you have to teach people this, then you're crazy. And if it's not as important as reading and writing, you're also nuts.
Here's the thing: we ain't winning this battle, whites or blacks. We just keep getting fatter.
Some of us don't.
Well, yeah, Susan's husband is still losing just a ton of weight.
By eating less and exercising.
But he's been overweight since I knew him. Yes?
Well, I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm being beeped in on, and I missed it. Yes?
I said he's been overweight ever since I've known him. So he's tried many times to lose weight, and he has, and then it comes back. And losing is not always the hard part. There's no doubt about that. I will celebrate his loss totally if 3 years from now, 4 years from now, he still has it off. As you know, I lost a ton of weight, and it's creeping back on, which is what happens.
Right.
It happens in 90-some% of cases. It's not like, they don't have the willpower. I was just reading today somewhere, in some paper, some obesity expert, maybe it was in the science section in the New York Times, and he was saying how unbelievably hard it is. It takes a good 3 years after you've lost the weight for your body to settle and to tolerate this new threshold weight. And so you can't you can't get too happy unless you've made it through that 3 year
your brain is going to insist you're starving for a long time. But one of the things that's one of the ways he did this was by not dieting, just eating.
That's right.
Less.
And that's the way I lost it too.
No
I said I'm not dieting.
And he plans on continuing to monitor his caloric intake.
Well,
that can't stop.
God, I wish him all the best. And still on the subject of fat Americans, say you're sitting on an airplane and you have the misfortune of sitting next to what's soon to be an average American, And they're literally drooping into your space that you paid for. I mean, that is very, very uncomfortable. But guess what? They're starting to think that the FAA has got
the airplanes aren't safe.
Got that right.
And that person next to you could actually be a danger to you.
Could help crash the plane.
Well, certainly won't be restrained by the seatbelt, which is only tested to 170 pounds.
That is right. So seat belts have been tested with crash dummies and all of that. But these crash dummies don't anymore look like average Americans. They used to be, 170 pounds? That's what they are, 170 pounds. Well, I got news for you. The average American man now weighs 194 pounds. The average American woman weighs 165. Okay? So we've got all those dummies have got to be tossed. They don't represent us at all. And they actually said that if a seat were to collapse or belts are insufficient to hold in the heavy passengers, those seated nearby could be endangered by essentially flying fat people.
Yeah, it's really not fun, but I've been, given that I fly a lot, I've been really, I'm getting fed up. I try and be very polite and correct about this, and I know that person would rather not be that size. But you know what? I paid for my seat.
I agree with you.
And that
pisses me off too.
Simply isn't entitled to take what I'm
part
not
of
using.
mine. I agree.
I bought it. It's mine. And if you can't fit in yours, you just have to buy two. And that's it. I'm sorry if that's a penalty, but life has consequences.
I agree with you totally.
And period. I've had it. They make those seats so small anyway. I'm sorry.
I was once on a plane recently, and there was a young Asian woman in front of me, directly in front of me, and she was so tiny. And this huge, huge man gets on and sits in the seat next to her. And I don't know how he got in that seat. I, for the life of me, cannot figure it out. And so he was seated actually directly in front of me. And I saw that he was just flowing into her seat. And then not too long after that, the flight attendant said, that there were some seats around the plane that if people wanted to change their seats, they could. And I thought, this poor woman can get out now. And she didn't move. And I'm sure she didn't move because she didn't want to embarrass him. Mm-hmm. She just couldn't do it. So
I would have moved. I would have said,
I think I would have
give
too.
You more room.
Yeah. Here, take all of my seat, for God's sake. I'm getting out of here. But she stayed there. And, I mean, she really, I don't know. Yeah, I can feel for him. It cannot be easy to get on to know that everybody. It's like getting on with a crying child.
For having to be publicly, for having to so publicly deal with what is,
your handicap.
Probably not a pleasant part of your life. But then make it easy for everybody and be, act responsibly.
Okay, well, we agree on this. But it's only going to get worse because more and more and more, as we said, Americans are going to head into the land of obesity. I think more Americans than not are overweight. I mean, there's these, overweight is one thing, obesity is the other. But I think we're over the 50% mark when it comes to just being overweight.
Yeah.
I'm still overweight.
I'm overweight.
You are?
Yeah.
God.
I mean, probably not according to height and weight charts, but for my particular build, yeah, I am.
Yeah, I am too. And yet, I look a heck of a lot better than most of the people I see walking around.
Well, and so do I. And
because,
as I say often, and if I'm wearing a large, what the heck is everybody
I know!
wearing?
I don't get that. If I know. Or if a large doesn't fit me and after I lost all that weight, what the hell?
Well, and even if you look at the women's size guides, they say that like a large in a shirt is a 12 to a 14. Well, I'm here to say
that's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's what?
It's like an 8 to a 10.
Well, Susan, I'm sorry. This is sort of like the dinner plates you were talking about, isn't it?
In reverse.
Well, maybe. I would just think that the dress manufacturers would be, the clothing manufacturers would be smart.
Going exactly on the other side
to do the other, because
reasons.
Psychologically, if I can buy something and it's just a medium, I'm really into that. Oh, I bought this and you know what? It's a small. When in fact, it could be a large, given, a different measure, standard of measurement. Oh, boy. Okay, well, I have to take
I know, it's hard to figure out.
I have to take another break.
Okay.
I'm watching these guys on, what do they call those things hanging off a skyscraper when they're washing windows and they're standing on that?
The scaffolding?
It's not scaffolding because it's just
well,
one.
Well, the window washer things. I mean, it hangs down.
It's hanging
the window
down
washer ropey things.
And what's interesting is I can't see the ropes, but they're just being pulled up to the top right now. I can't. That would be what a view.
Can you imagine?
What a view they must have.
Yeah. I can't even walk over to the edge to the fence on those things.
Wow.
When I go up to the top of buildings, I don't like being higher than I can run down.
Wow. Well, they're making their slow way up. Okay, I'm going to watch them, make sure they don't fall, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Joe Bonamassa, Parliament Funkadelic, Riverdance, and the Blue Man Group. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Chris writes that we should have been watching, well, if you weren't watching your husband, hadn't been watching your husband BS about opera, the PBS had a special on about Johnny Carson last night, which Chris says was really good. So.
That's nice. I mean, the one night that there's nothing.
Yeah. Okay, I want to move into something else here. Obamacare. It's still, most Americans think it's a travesty. They don't like it. But another part of the law is kicking in, like, as I speak, and it's called the 80-20 rule. I don't remember this at all, but here's what it is. If an insurance company fails to spend 80% of your premium costs on actual health care, then they have to write you a check and rebate, I guess, the difference. How they figure this out, I can't imagine.
Oh, really?
Says so right here, Suze.
I'm in for thousands.
Well, maybe not. Here's what it says. Millions of Americans are starting to receive rebate checks or premium reductions from insurance companies who have failed to spend enough on patient care. This could be a true game changer in public attitudes about whether, Obamacare is a good thing or not. The rebate provision has been known and discussed in healthcare circles for months, but has largely flown below the radar for most people. But insurance companies have to spend at least 80 cents of every dollar you pay in premiums on care or activities that improve health care quality. If the
for that particular person or in general?
I think in general it has to be. If the insurance company fails to meet this standard or the medical loss ratio in any year, then they have to pay you a rebate. And the rebates must be processed no later than August 1. Some have already gone out. The Kaiser Family Foundation has projected that around 16 million Americans will get rebates.
Well, I'd sure like to see one.
Small employers also will get rebates if, they're warranted. Large employers covering, bigger groups will get rebates. And employers who are given rebates are obligated to pass those savings on to their employees. I wonder who's checking this all out. They've got some states here.
Who's monitoring it?
I don't know. We'll see. Big government. Health and Human Services is, because it was Sebelius who came out with the some press release the other day that I'm getting this from. Says here that they figure, I don't see Missouri on this list right now, Susan, because they were just doing what they think are battleground states. They figure over 1 million Pennsylvanians will be getting rebate checks, and the amount of money coming to them is $104,533,779.
Wow.
So if 1 million people split $100 million, my God, it can't be that high. Says the size of the checks will vary. And the letters of notification that comes with this unexpected check will come from the insurance companies and not the government. And that way the administration can minimize the accusation that the president is, somehow doing this for political gain. At the same time, the insurance company letters have to state at the top, this rebate is required by the Affordable Care Act, the health reform law. Too bad they weren't mandated to say Obamacare, which is pretty much what most people think it's called. But isn't that interesting?
The average rebates would be about $164 in the individual market.
Okay. Well, that's found money
something.
For people. That's something. And looks to me like, like Florida's getting almost $150 million.
Well, we'll see. We'll know soon.
Excuse me. And, of course, add onto that the wrinkle that while these checks are coming out, the Supreme Court might well rule that the law is unconstitutional. And what is that? People holding on to their rebate checks and then hearing the Supreme Court say this law is unconstitutional. What kind of insanity is going to occur there? Oh, my God. This court.
I know.
Court.
I do know this court.
Oh, dear God. Dear Lord. Okay. Well, I thought that was sort of good news. That doesn't seem to be getting a lot of
No,
ink.
it will. It'll start,
And
it'll start hitting.
And here's another thing, like you're saying, while we have the money or they're always getting money to build retractable domes, for the hapless St. Louis Rams, and there's always money for things that you would think government shouldn't be spending money on, and they can't seem to find money. One of the things that we're falling down on, and everybody knows it in this country, is infrastructure. And specifically, transportation infrastructure. I read this article. It was from the New York Times some time ago, and a freight train, carrying all those what do they call those things? Those container things that end up then hooked onto a cab and on the highway, you know?
Yeah, container cars. That's what they are.
Okay. So
they're called containers.
Okay. So these long freight trains that you see carrying all those things, if they're going from L.A., let's say, to New York, they can get from Los Angeles to Chicago in 48 hours. Generally. That's generally what it takes those trains. And then, believe it or not, it takes one of those trains almost as long, 30 hours, to get across Chicago.
Well, it's a little slower by car.
A train once it hits Chicago, and Chicago is like a nexus for a lot of these things come together at Chicago. They end up going, when they hit Chicago, an average speed of 1.3 miles per hour. And the fact of the matter is, an electric wheelchair goes faster.
Yeah, not counting traffic.
Well, 6 of the nation's 7 biggest railways pass through Chicago.
Right.
And so
this
say
is a problem for being a nexus.
Yeah, but
it doesn't work when you have a finite number of rail lines, just like you have to build more runways. If you want a bigger airport, you have to have more lines. They don't.
But they still are using these tracks that have just been, some of them laid down in the 1800s and then and it's this insanity, apparently.
Well, they're starting to actually, we were hoping to be running more lines. I mean, don't you think it's absolutely shocking that you can no longer get on a passenger train in Green Bay
and get to Chicago?
Take it to Chicago?
I know. But, that's been gone so long.
All the track is there, and it's so much more efficient, and it takes the same amount of time.
I know. Anyway, they say nothing's going to be done about this unless Congress steps in and passes transportation legislation. And the only way transportation legislation ever gets through is bipartisanship, and I'll just let you fill in the rest. So, these Republicans who think that it's somehow, it's written in the Bible or something, that they are not ever allowed to compromise, if we keep up with this insanity, we'll not only have Rush Limbaugh, being honored alongside Mark Twain and Harry Truman, but we'll have, total stalemate, nothing getting done. You cannot be a Class A economy with this 19th century railway system.
Nope.
Actually, the 19th century railway system was better. It worked. I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know. And that's it. That is it. We are so done.
Okay.
And those guys on the window washers, they're almost to the top floor. Oy, God. Oy, what a job you wouldn't want. Okay. Hey, Suze, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. And thank you for listening, watching, whatever it is you did, or leaving in disgust. I don't care, and I don't know. Tomorrow, Christopher Potter, the editor of Pittsburgh City Paper, will be joining me, as is his habit, and always a good time. See you then.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.